They said I was too dark to carry the Whitfield legacy. Little did they know, I was about to expose secrets that would bring their entire empire crashing down. My name is Ophelia Ashworth, and this is the story of how I went from being a scholarship student scrubbing floors to almost marrying into one of America's wealthiest families, and why I walked away from it all. If you're watching this from anywhere in the world, drop a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. Trust me, you're going to want to stay until the end, because what happens next will shock you. If this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe to join this big family. Let me take you back to where it all began. I was 25, working 3 jobs to pay for my environmental science PhD at Columbia University. My family had moved to New York from London when I was 12, chasing the American dream that seemed to slip further away with each passing year. While other students worried about their thesis topics, I worried about rent, groceries, and whether I'd have enough money to buy textbooks. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, I volunteered at St. Catherine's Community Kitchen in Manhattan. It was the one place where I felt like I was making a real difference, serving meals to people who reminded me that no matter how hard my life got, others had it worse. That's where I met him. "Excuse me, miss, could I have some more soup?" I looked up from ladling vegetable broth into bowls and saw the most genuine smile I'd encountered in months. The man before me was probably in his late 20s, with kind hazel eyes and sandy brown hair that looked like he'd been running his hands through it. His clothes were worn but clean, and something about the way he said please and thank you made me pause. "Of course," I said, filling his bowl to the brim. "What's your name?" "Oliver," he said simply. "And you?" "Ophelia." Beautiful name for a beautiful woman. I felt my cheeks warm. It had been so long since anyone had complimented me without wanting something in return. "Thank you. I'll see you next week." Wouldn't miss it. Guys, if you think you know where this is going, hit that subscribe button because trust me, you have no idea what's coming. For 3 months, Oliver came to the soup kitchen religiously. We'd talk about everything: books, music, dreams, the state of the world. He never asked personal questions about my background, never made me feel different or out of place. With Oliver, I could just be Ophelia, not the scholarship kid, not the immigrant trying to prove herself, not the girl whose accent still slipped when she was tired. "You know," he said one evening as I was cleaning up, "there's this new environmental documentary playing at the Angelica. Would you maybe want to see it this Saturday?" My heart did a little flip. Like, a date? If you'd like it to be. That Saturday changed everything. As we walked out of the theater, debating the film's stance on renewable energy, Oliver suddenly stopped walking. "Ophelia, I need to tell you something." The serious tone in his voice made my stomach clench. "What is it?" "I haven't been completely honest with you about who I am. Comment below if you've ever had someone drop a bombshell on you like this." What did you think Oliver was about to reveal? My full name is Oliver Whitfield. My family, we own Whitfield Renewable Energy Corporation. I stared at him. Whitfield Renewable Energy was one of the largest clean energy companies in North America, with operations spanning from New York to Toronto, London to Sydney. I'd written papers about their environmental initiatives. "You're telling me you're a billionaire who's been eating soup at a homeless shelter for 3 months?" Oliver ran his hand through his hair, a nervous habit I'd grown to love. "I've been volunteering there for 2 years. I use a different name because when people know who I am, they treat me differently. With you, I could just be Oliver. But you're not just Oliver, are you?" The weight of what this meant was starting to sink in. "You're Oliver Whitfield. Your family owns half of Manhattan. Does it change anything between us? Pause the video and tell me, would this change things for you? Let me know in the comments, because Ophelia's answer surprised even me. "It changes everything," I said quietly, "but not in the way you think." I was falling for him, the real him. the man who spent his Tuesday evening serving others, who remembered that Mrs. Rodriguez liked extra crackers with her soup, who had strong opinions about sustainable agriculture and wasn't afraid to debate me on carbon offset policies. But I was also terrified. I'd grown up watching my parents work multiple jobs, watching them be treated as less than human because of their accents, their skin color, their immigrant status. I'd spent my entire life being told I didn't belong in spaces like the one Oliver inhabited naturally. "I want to introduce you to my family," Oliver said 3 weeks later as we walked through Central Park. My stomach dropped. "Oliver, I don't think that's a good idea." "Why not?" How could I explain it? How could I tell him that I'd spent years being the only black face in lecture halls, being followed around in stores, being asked if I was in the right place at academic conferences? How could I make him understand that his family would take one look at me and see everything his world had taught them to dismiss? Just give me time to prepare, okay? If you've ever felt like you didn't belong somewhere because of how you looked, hit that like button. You're not alone in this. 2 months later, I finally agreed to meet them. Oliver picked me up in a car that cost more than my family's annual rent and drove us to an estate in the Hamptons that looked like something out of a movie. "Remember," he said, squeezing my hand as we pulled up the circular driveway, "I love you." It was the first time he'd said it, and my heart should have soared. Instead, all I could focus on was the way the security guards' eyes lingered on me, the way the housekeeping staff, all women of color like me, avoided eye contact as we passed. Oliver, darling, a woman who could only be his mother glided toward us in the foyer. Evelyn Whitfield was everything I'd expected, blonde, polished, wearing a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my semester's tuition. Her smile faltered for just a microsecond when she saw me, but she recovered quickly. "And you must be Ophelia. How lovely to meet you." The pause before lovely felt like a slap. "Mrs. Whitfield, thank you for having me in your home." "Of course, dear. Oliver has told us so much about your work at the soup kitchen." Guys, can you hear the condescension? Drop a comment if you've ever experienced this kind of subtle racism. Let's talk about it. Dinner was a masterclass in polite hostility. Oliver's father, Richard, was warmer than his wife, but even he seemed confused by my presence. Oliver's sister, Evangeline, wait, let me call her something else, Cordelia, barely acknowledged me except to ask pointed questions about my background. "So, Ophelia, Oliver tells us you're from England originally?" "London, yes. My family moved here when I was 12. "How interesting. And what did your parents do back in London?" The question felt loaded. My father was a teacher, my mother was a nurse. "And here in America?" I felt Oliver tense beside me. "They've had various jobs. The credential transfer process can be complicated. What I didn't say, my father drove a taxi for 8 years before his UK teaching credentials were finally recognized. My mother cleaned houses until she could retake her nursing exams. They'd sacrificed everything so I could have opportunities like this one." "I see," Evelyn said, taking a delicate sip of wine. "How resourceful." After dinner, Oliver excused himself to take a call, leaving me alone with his mother. This, I realized, had been planned. "Ophelia, dear, walk with me to the garden." "Okay, everybody watching, this is where things get really intense. Make sure you're subscribed because you're not going to believe what happens next." The garden was stunning, acres of perfectly manicured roses and fountains lit by soft lighting. Under different circumstances, I might have enjoyed it. "You seem like a lovely girl," Evelyn began, "and I can see why Oliver is fond of you." "Thank you. But I think we both know this isn't going to work out." There it was. The conversation I'd been dreading since the moment Oliver told me his last name. "I'm not sure what you mean, Mrs. Whitfield." "Oh, I think you do." Her voice was steel wrapped in silk. Oliver is the heir to a family legacy that spans generations. The woman who stands beside him will be photographed, scrutinized, judged. She'll represent our family name at charity galas, board meetings, international conferences. And you don't think I'm capable of that? I think you're a very intelligent young woman who understands the realities of the world we live in. Comment below if you want to know what Ophelia said next, because her response was perfect. The reality is that you're trying to buy me off because you think I'm not good enough for your son. And the tragic part is, you probably don't even realize how racist that is. Evelyn's composure cracked. Racist? How dare you? You've been polite. I'll give you that. But every question tonight has been designed to put me in my place. You want to make sure I know I don't belong here. You don't belong here. The mask was off now. Oliver needs someone who understands our world, someone who can navigate the social and business pressures he'll face. Someone who looks the part. Someone white, you mean? I mean someone appropriate. Guys, I'm literally shaking just retelling this part. If this story is hitting you hard, let me know in the comments. Your support means everything. I have a proposition for you, Evelyn continued, reaching into her purse. This is a check for $2 million. Take it, end things with Oliver, and start the life you actually deserve. I stared at the check. $2 million. Enough to pay off my student loans, help my parents, maybe even start my own environmental consulting firm. Enough to buy my way out of the struggles that had defined my entire life. You think this is what I want from him, I said quietly. You think I'm some gold digger who trapped your son. I think you're a smart girl who got in over her head. I took the check from her hands. For a moment, hope flickered in her eyes. Then I tore it in half. Mrs. Whitfield, I need you to understand something. I love your son. Not his money, not his name, not his connections. Him. And if you can't see why he's worth more than the opinions of people who judge others by their skin color, then you don't deserve him. Tell me in the comments, would you have taken the money or torn up the check? Be honest. I found Oliver in his father's study, staring out the window. How did it go with my mother? She offered me $2 million to leave you. He spun around. She what? And I turned her down. Relief flooded his face, followed quickly by anger. I'm going to talk to her, no. I caught his arm. This is bigger than your mother, Oliver. This is about your entire world. If we do this, if we really try to build something together, it's going to be hard. People are going to say things about me, about us, about our children if we have them. I don't care what people say, but I do. And I need to know that when it gets difficult, and it will get difficult, you'll still choose me. He pulled me into his arms. Every single time. Guys, if you believe in love conquering all, hit that subscribe button. But let me tell you, the universe was about to test that belief in the worst possible way. 6 months later, we were engaged. Oliver proposed at the soup kitchen where we met, in front of all the volunteers and clients who had become our chosen family. It was perfect, intimate, and nothing like the elaborate society engagement his family probably expected. The announcement made the society pages, complete with photos and speculation about the mystery woman who had captured Oliver Whitfield's heart. Most of the coverage was surprisingly positive, focusing on our shared commitment to environmental causes and social justice. But not all of it. The anonymous comments online were vicious. The social media posts were worse. People questioned my motives, my background, my worthiness. They called me things I won't repeat, made assumptions about my character based solely on photos of my face. Don't read the comments, Oliver said, finding me crying over my laptop one evening. How can I not? These people don't even know me. They're cowards hiding behind screens. They don't matter. But they did matter because they represented the world we'd be living in. Every charity gala, every business dinner, every family gathering would be full of people who smiled to my face while thinking these things about me. 3 weeks before the wedding, everything fell apart. Okay, everyone, this is where the story takes a turn that even I didn't see coming. Make sure you're sitting down. I was at Columbia, working late in the environmental science lab, when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Check your email. You deserve to know the truth. The email contained a link to a private Instagram account and screenshots of conversations. My blood turned to ice as I realized what I was looking at. Evelyn Whitfield had been conducting a campaign against me for months. She'd hired a private investigator to dig into my family's background, looking for anything that could be used to discredit me. She'd planted negative stories about our relationship in gossip blogs. She'd even reached out to my former professors and classmates, asking pointed questions about my academic performance and personal life. But the worst part was the group chat. It was titled The Ophelia Problem and included Evelyn, Cordelia, and several other society women. The messages were a masterclass in sophisticated racism, never using slurs, but making their feelings crystal clear. She's obviously quite intelligent, but intelligence isn't everything. I'm just concerned about how this will look at the Cancer Research Gala. You know how important those photos are for the foundation. Oliver is going through a phase. He's always been drawn to causes. I'm not going to lie, reading those messages broke something inside me. If you've ever been reduced to a problem that needed solving, you know how this feels. The final screenshot was from 2 days earlier. The wedding is in 3 weeks. If Oliver won't see reason, we may need to take more drastic action. What kind of action? I've been in touch with some people at immigration services. Ophelia's student visa status could be questioned. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. They were going to try to have me deported. I screenshot everything and sent it to Oliver with a message. We need to talk. Now. He arrived at my apartment 20 minutes later, his face pale as he scrolled through the evidence. This isn't possible, he said. My mother wouldn't. She would, and she did. I was surprised by how calm my voice sounded. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Comment below if you think Oliver chose his family or Ophelia. The answer might surprise you. Oliver was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. I need to talk to them first. Let me handle this. Handle this? Oliver, your mother is trying to have me deported. I know. But if I confront her with evidence, if I threaten to cut ties completely, she'll back down. I just need time to make her understand. Understand what? That I'm human? That I deserve basic respect? That shouldn't require a negotiation. Please, Ophelia, give me one chance to fix this. Trust me. That was the problem. I did trust him, but I was beginning to realize that trust wasn't enough. Guys, have you ever loved someone who asked you to make yourself smaller for their family's comfort? Let me know in the comments, because this next part is going to hurt. The next morning, Oliver called me with news that made my blood run cold. Immigration services contacted Columbia. They're questioning your visa status and academic standing. I sank into a chair. It's starting. I confronted my mother. She denies having anything to do with it, but I know she's lying. Ophelia, I think we need to move up the wedding. What? If we're married, your immigration status is protected. We can have a small ceremony, just us and a few witnesses. Stop. The word came out sharper than I intended. Listen to yourself. You want to rush our wedding because your mother is trying to have me deported, but you won't cut ties with her. You want me to marry you for protection while still maintaining a relationship with people who see me as a problem to be solved. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. And the worst part is, you're asking me to be grateful for it. I need everyone watching to understand something. Love isn't supposed to cost you your dignity. If that resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. That evening, I called my parents and told them everything. My mother, practical as always, asked the question I'd been avoiding. Do you think he'll choose you over them when it really matters? I don't know. Then you have your answer. My father, ever the optimist, was more hopeful. Perhaps he just needs time to find his courage. How much time am I supposed to give him while his family destroys my life? The immigration interview was scheduled for the following Monday. Oliver hired the best immigration lawyer money could buy, but we all knew this was a fishing expedition designed to find any reason to revoke my status. Friday night, Oliver showed up at my apartment with red eyes and a bottle of wine. I told them, he said. I told my whole family that if they don't stop this campaign against you, I'm cutting them off completely. No contact, no business relationship, nothing. And my mother said she'd rather lose me than watch me destroy the family name. Guys, can you imagine? Having to choose between the woman you love and your entire family? Comment if you think Oliver made the right choice. My father was more subtle about it, but the message was the same. Cordelia said I was being manipulated by someone who could never really understand our world. I poured myself a glass of wine with steady hands. So what now? Now I choose you. I choose us. I've already started the process of removing myself from the family business. We'll figure out the rest as we go. I should have felt relief. Victory, even. Instead, I felt hollow. Oliver, can I ask you something? Anything. If your family had welcomed me, if they'd been warm and accepting from the beginning, would you have ever questioned their character? Would you have ever noticed the way they treat the housekeeping staff, or thought about why all their friends look exactly like them? He was quiet for a long moment. Probably not. That's what I thought. This next part is going to be controversial, so let me know in the comments if you agree with Ophelia's decision. I love you, I said, but I can't marry you. What? Why? I'm choosing you. You're choosing me now, after months of asking me to be patient while your family tried to destroy my life. You're choosing me after I had to prove my worth a dozen different ways. You're choosing me because the evidence of their cruelty became impossible to ignore, not because you believed in my worth from the beginning. That's not fair, isn't it? Oliver, you're a good man. You have a kind heart, and you genuinely want to make the world better. But you've never had to think about what it means to walk through the world looking like me. You've never had to prove you belong somewhere because your right to exist there was never questioned. Tears were streaming down my face, but I pressed on. And I can't spend my life being grateful that you chose me over a family that sees me as less than human. I can't build a marriage on the foundation of me having to prove I'm worth basic respect. If you're crying right now, you're not alone. Let me know in the comments how this story is making you feel. Oliver was crying too. So what do? You figure out who you want to be when it's not easy. When standing up for what's right costs you something real. And I figure out how to build a life where my worth isn't up for debate. The immigration interview went better than expected. My academic record was spotless, my visa paperwork was in perfect order, and the lawyer Oliver had hired knew exactly how to handle what was clearly a harassment case. Within a week, the investigation was dropped. But the damage was done. I couldn't stay at Columbia, couldn't stay in New York, couldn't stay anywhere that reminded me of how small I'd been willing to make myself for love. Guys, this story isn't over yet. Make sure you're subscribed because what happened next changed everything. I transferred to Stanford to finish my PhD. The environmental science program there was actually better than Columbia's, and California felt like a place where I could breathe again. Oliver and I agreed not to contact each other for 6 months to give ourselves space to grow. 3 months into my new life in California, I got a call that changed everything. Ophelia? This is Janet Chen from the Environmental Protection Agency. I almost dropped the phone. The EPA had been my dream employer since I started graduate school. We've been following your research on urban pollution's impact on low-income communities. We'd like to offer you a position with our Environmental Justice Division. It was everything I'd ever wanted. A chance to use my science background to advocate for communities like the one I grew up in, to make real policy changes that would improve people's lives. There's one more thing, Janet continued. We're investigating some concerning environmental violations by several major corporations. Your research on soil contamination would be invaluable to our case. What companies? Whitfield Renewable Energy is one of them. Plot twist alert. Drop a comment if you saw this coming. It turned out that Whitfield Renewable Energy had been illegally dumping contaminated soil from their wind farm construction sites in low-income neighborhoods across 3 states. The communities affected were primarily Black and Latino, chosen specifically because the company knew these residents had less political power to fight back. My research on soil contamination and its health effects became the cornerstone of the EPA's case. For 6 months, I worked 18-hour days, building an airtight legal argument that would not only shut down the illegal dumping, but also provide compensation for the affected communities. I tried not to think about how Oliver would react when he found out. I tried not to wonder if he knew what his family's company was doing. I found out the answer when he showed up at my apartment in Palo Alto on a rainy Thursday evening. Guys, I literally froze when I saw him. If you want to know what happened next, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I know about the EPA case, he said without preamble. Oliver, I know my family's company has been poisoning communities for years. I know my mother knew about it. I know my father signed off on it. And I know you're the one who's going to bring them down. I stepped aside to let him in, my heart pounding. I came to say thank you. That was not what I'd expected. You were right, he continued. About all of it. I've spent the last 6 months really looking at my family, my company, my whole world. And you were right. I was so comfortable in my privilege that I never questioned where it came from or who was paying the price for it. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to testify. Comment below if you think Oliver should get a second chance. The EPA contacted me 2 weeks ago. They wanted to know what I knew about the dumping. I told them everything, every board meeting I'd sat in on, every conversation I'd overheard, every document I'd seen. My testimony is going to help put my own mother in prison. I stared at him. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. Because those communities deserve justice. Because you taught me that love isn't about protecting someone from consequences, it's about making sure they face them. The EPA case made national news. Whitfield Renewable Energy was fined $2.3 billion, the largest environmental penalty in U.S. history. Evelyn Whitfield was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. Richard Whitfield faced criminal charges that would likely keep him behind bars for the next decade. Oliver's testimony was the smoking gun that sealed their fate. If you believe in justice being served, let me know in the comments. And tell me where you're watching from. I love hearing from viewers all over the world. There's something else, Oliver said as we walked along the Stanford campus 2 weeks after the sentencing. We'd been carefully rebuilding our friendship, taking it slow, learning each other again. What? I'm starting a foundation. Using my inheritance, what's left of it after the legal fees and fines, to provide environmental cleanup and healthcare for communities affected by corporate pollution. That's amazing, Oliver. I want you to run it. I stopped walking. What? You're the smartest person I know. You understand both the science and the policy side. You care about the right things. And after what you've accomplished with the EPA case, you're probably the most respected environmental justice advocate in the country. Guys, what would you do? Would you work with your ex to run a foundation? Let me know in the comments. I can't work for you, Oliver. You wouldn't be working for me. You'd be my equal partner. Your name on the door, your vision driving the mission. I'd just be the guy who writes the checks. I laughed to spite myself. The guy who writes the checks is usually the one in charge. Not this time. I've learned a lot about power in the last year. I know when I should have it and when I shouldn't. The Ashworth Whitfield Foundation launched 6 months later. In our first year, we've cleaned up contaminated sites in 12 communities, provided healthcare screenings for over 3,000 families, and funded environmental justice research at universities across the country. Oliver and I work together beautifully. We challenge each other, support each other, and share a mission that feels bigger than both of us. We're not together romantically. That ship sailed when I realized I needed to love myself before I could love anyone else properly. But sometimes, late at night when we're working on a particularly difficult case, I catch him looking at me the way he used to. And sometimes I look back. What do you think? Should Ophelia give Oliver another chance romantically? Let me know in the comments. Last month, we testified together before Congress about environmental racism and corporate accountability. Sitting at that witness table, knowing that our work was helping to shape national policy, I felt something I'd never experienced before, the certainty that I was exactly where I belonged. After the hearing, Oliver and I grabbed dinner at a little cafe near the Capitol. "Can I ask you something?" he said over dessert. "Always. Do you ever regret it? The way things happened with us." I thought about it carefully. I regret that it took so much pain for both of us to become the people we needed to be. But I don't regret where we ended up. Even though we're not together, especially because we're not together. Oliver, what we have now is built on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine partnership. If we'd gotten married when we were originally supposed to, it would have been built on me making myself smaller and you learning to live with the guilt. He nodded slowly. "You're right. You're always right. Not always. But I'm right about this." Guys, real talk. Sometimes the best love story is the one where people grow apart so they can grow up. What do you think? Comment below. As I'm recording this story, it's been 2 years since Oliver first proposed. The EPA case has inspired similar investigations into environmental racism across the country. The foundation has expanded to include offices in Toronto, London, and Sydney. My PhD thesis on environmental justice policy is being published as a book next year. And I'm happy. Really, genuinely happy in a way that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval or acceptance. But here's the thing, I'm telling you this story not because I want you to feel sorry for me or even because I want you to celebrate my success. I'm telling you this because I need you to understand something important. This is the part where I need you to really listen, so pause whatever else you're doing and focus. Every single day, people like me, Black women, immigrants, anyone who doesn't fit into society's narrow definition of acceptable, are asked to make ourselves smaller, quieter, more palatable. We're told that if we just work twice as hard, if we just prove ourselves worthy enough, if we just endure the discrimination with grace and patience, eventually we'll be accepted. That's a lie. The truth is, your worth is not up for debate. Your right to take up space, to love and be loved, to pursue your dreams, that's not something you have to earn through suffering or prove through perfection. If that message resonates with you, I need you to hit that subscribe button right now. Because this channel is going to be a place where we tell stories that matter, stories that remind you of your inherent worth. I could have married Oliver and spent my life being grateful that he chose me despite his family's objections. I could have made myself smaller and smaller until I disappeared entirely, all in the name of love. Instead, I chose to bet on myself. And that bet paid off in ways I never could have imagined. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my situation? And more importantly, what situation in your own life are you settling for less than you deserve? The last thing I want to say is this. Oliver and I are friends now. Good friends. We work together, we trust each other, and we're both better people than we were when we were engaged. But he had to prove, not to me, but to himself, that he could stand up for what's right even when it cost him everything. And I had to prove to myself that I could walk away from what looked like everything I wanted in order to build what I actually needed. That's the end of my story, but it's not the end of this conversation. I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? What part of this story hit you the hardest? Have you ever had to choose between love and self-respect? Drop all your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories like this one. And remember, you're worthy of love that doesn't require you to shrink yourself to fit. Until next time, keep taking up space.